Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining. It has been approximately 60 days since Geon's last market update webinar. Over this time, we have experienced some positive news and some not so positive. We will review some of these details and share how Geon continues to find solutions to these challenges. But first, let's take care of the legal material. The information presented on this webinar does not constitute commercial, investment, financial, legal, or tax advice in any way whatsoever. All opinions are the presenter's own. Nothing in this webinar constitutes a recommendation, and nothing presented should be solely relied upon for decision-making for your business. Geon strongly recommends you perform your own independent research. All right, so today we will cover some of the factors affecting our industry. First, we will provide a historical perspective on semiconductor chips and containers. Second, we will cover raw materials. And third, we will provide our view and concern regarding logistics and labor. Before getting into specifics on raw materials and logistics, we thought it would be appropriate to share some historical perspective. First, containers. Rates for container freight first started to rise last August as a result of surging demand for Chinese finished goods exports. The volume of outbound Chinese containers and far fewer inbound containers created major positioning issues for world trade. Also, container freight companies had already reduced sailings due to the pandemic and an inability to acquire labor. All of this added up to a major shortage for containers. The second item is semiconductor chips. The semiconductor shortage resulted from a surge in demand for consumer electronics as consumers spent more on disposable goods during COVID lockdowns. This forced chip makers to ration chips, first to automakers, then to consumer electronic companies. The chip shortage was exacerbated by two other events. First, a fire at a major Japanese auto chip plant, and second, a drought in Taiwan, which reduced water supply for manufacturing semiconductor chips. As if this and COVID weren't enough, then Storm Uri hit the Gulf Coast and caused major power outages and plant shutdowns. Now, the Colonial Pipeline shutdown has created gas shortages and increased trucking costs as well. Let's move on to raw materials. A high number of suppliers are still on force majeure under sales allocation as they rebuild. While things are improving, it is expected to take several more months before getting back to normal levels. Because of the ongoing imbalance in raw material supply and demand, price inflation continues compared to pre-storm levels. Double-digit increases have been seen in Q1, and we are still seeing inflation in Q2, but at a lower rate. Prices are forecasted to remain at higher levels through Q2 before stabilizing sometime in Q3 for several categories. Some areas, like polypropylene and stabilizer, may continue beyond that as supply and demand remains imbalanced. Many of our raw materials are derived from crude oil. It is currently forecasted to stay around $68 to $70 per barrel based on spikes in demand. PVC, one of our major raw materials, has increased in price by 21 cents per pound since December. With demand not letting up and 3 out of 4 suppliers still under force majeure, we expect pricing to stay high until late Q2 or early Q3. Other raw materials, such as stabilizers and plasticizers, remain in high demand, creating a short market and higher costs. Specialty additives used to produce these products are still short, causing challenges for the industry suppliers to catch up. Overall, the forecast shows some stabilizing in June or July timeframe. As discussed in our last webinar, Geon has qualified several new suppliers to improve security of supply. We have also negotiated with some of our strategic suppliers on additional supply for short and long-term availability. Our frequent communication with suppliers has allowed us to closely monitor shipments, ensure delivery, and continue to prioritize our products to the right sites to meet our customer commitments. Again, we expect the tight supply to continue through Q2 for most materials, with some remaining tight through Q3. Let's move on to logistics. The picture on the right is showing the continued strength of the truck market based on demand. For bulk trucks, shippers are struggling to produce and fill rail cars. In order to meet customer lead times, they are sending bulk carriers on longer hauls, decreasing the turns for a driver, thus removing capacity, both by consuming more trucks and reducing turns. Hiring drivers and placing them in open truck seats continues to be a problem, leaving less capacity to cover loads. The freight volumes continue to soar at over 5 loads per truck. Carrier schedules are filling up 14 days out and are ever changing based on delivery delays and cancellations. Now, produce season is underway. Not only is it further tightening the market for full truckloads, but as you can see from the picture on the lower right, the rates are skyrocketing as this product cannot sit around. Normally, we see the produce markets result in higher rates, but this year we are expecting the pain to be felt also in larger markets. Additionally, there is a driver shortage, and we expect to continue to feel the impact of the closure of many driver schools. The FMCSA Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse was not in place the last time we battled driver shortages, and that is also having an impact. At the bottom left, you can see very strong diesel rates, adding additional cost to the logistics market. This is all adding up to a forecast of higher rates, surcharges, and increased logistics pressure. So, what do we do to mitigate these pressures? First, we begin planning our usage further in advance to ensure we could secure trucks. Second, we upgraded our logistics network to better leverage our ability to move faster in a tight market. And finally, we are doing some work internally to be better responsive to shifts in demand. As far as expectations, spot and contract rates are rising 17 and 12% respectively. Current truck utilization is at 100% and will remain there through most of 2021. Truck utilization is expected to be above 96% through 2022. Average truck utilization is normally around 91%. We are also facing issues on the labor front. As you can see from the chart on the right, the US lost over 20 million workers due to the COVID pandemic. As the economy returns to normal, workers have been slow to return to the labor force for many reasons, including slow vaccination rate, children not fully back in school, childcare being hard to find, government stimulus may have provided a disincentive, a potential large shift in psychology of labor force, an increase in the number of jobs that can be done from home, and many people retiring early. This is creating a scenario where manufacturing growth is outpacing ability to hire qualified, trained employees. Moving forward, the forecast is for wages to rise as industries compete for labor. The supply chain, labor, and raw material problems created by the pandemic are just some of the many areas influencing our industry. Geon will continue to utilize our strategic assets to improve performance and mitigate risk. Despite these challenges, Geon has continued to invest in our business, and we will bring on new capacity in the near future, while we are actively planning an upgrade to our third-party logistics partners. We ask our customers to keep an open dialogue with Geon on the challenges you face. Through open dialogue, we believe great results can be achieved. Okay, so we hope this presentation helped you understand more of the challenges our industry is facing. Clearly, our value chain is under pressure. Geon stands ready to work closely with all of our customers to find solutions to their specific challenges. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your Geon sales professional or any of us with your specific questions. Be safe, stay well, and thank you for your time today.